Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Couple channel. I'm Wendy and this is my review for Weapons. Weapons is directed by Zach Cregger. When all but one child from the same classroom mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. Weapons. Directed by the same man who was responsible for Barbarian, a movie that was deeply disturbing to me and has completely changed my view on anything that's similar to an Airbnb. You will never find me in an Airbnb again after seeing that movie. So naturally, when I saw the trailer for Weapons, I say, yep, I feel like I need to get traumatized all over again. Let's go and see Weapons. So as you heard I talk about earlier, the synopsis, basically all the children from one classroom all vanished on one night exactly at the same time except for one student. So naturally the entire community comes together. They're trying to figure out who could have done this, who was responsible, why did this happen, and obviously where did the children go, how can we find them. And it's really interesting to watch how they did the storytelling for this movie. I thought they kind of dive into sort of like the creepiness of it, and the hauntingness of like children disappearing, and maybe dive into like each children's lives or something like that, their home lives, and they sort of do in a way, but not really. So the common denominator is they all came from the same classroom. So all eyes were on the teacher, Justine. And what this movie does really well is they essentially used different characters' POV to tell the story. And with each POV that we go through, we get a little bit more revealed and unveiled. And I thought that was a really cool way to tell the story in a horror movie setting. So as we dive into the character POVs, it has been about a month since the disappearance. There's been no trails, no hints where they could have gone. The only really evidence they have, other than it all was the same classroom, is the like security, like Ring doorbells, for example, footage of the kids running out the door. And there's something very particular about the way that they run. They'll explore more of that in the movie when you go and see it. So as we focus in on Justine, the teacher, I, for example, thought that we were going to get into, she's going to get disturbing nightmares and visions, and maybe there's something haunting the classroom, but it actually dives into her personal life and her experience after all of this has happened. She obviously cares for the kids. She is trying to also figure out what's happened, and she wants to speak to like the one remaining student where the school and the parents are like, absolutely not. You can't, it's better for you to have like distance, and obviously all the parents are mad at her. They're like, stay away. So it's how she's dealing with it, and you find out about her process and her flaws. And I like kind of getting into that about a character. And as we're watching it, I was thinking, this right now doesn't feel like it has anything to do with the rest of the story, but I actually love how much they build it up, because at the end, you end up really caring about a lot of these characters that they show the POV of. So they go through the movie this way, and they focus the POV on certain people in the community, the teachers, a police officer, one of the parents, played by Josh Brolin, another person in the community that is kind of, I would just, to keep it vague, trying to stay away from the police officers. Like, he does like some sketchy, shady stuff. And then, of course, the one student. And as we go in through to each POV, you kind of get more and more like freaked out, like, why is this happening? And it's sort of similar to how Barbarian was. If you saw Barbarian, when they showed after Georgina's stuff was kind of over, and then we kind of switch over, it almost felt like it was another movie. It's not quite drastic like that, but as we dive into the POVs, you almost forget a little bit that you're sitting in a horror movie until they hit you with, a jump scare or scary imagery, because of there is this, like, the reason why the kids are disappearing starts to kind of surface little bit by little bit in each character's POV. And I really should have known after watching Barbarian how disturbing some of the images and scenes are gonna be, and I wasn't prepared for one of them. And I threw my hands up to hide my face behind it so fast I'd essentially like smacked myself in the face, and I was like, "Well, that was applause to you, sir. That was effective." Going into a little bit more detail, so if you want to like skip forward or something like that, if you want to avoid all costs, I would end the video here. Naturally, as you can tell, I am really have enjoyed the movie, and I do recommend that you see it in theater if you're staying by here. If you're still here with us, there is a particular thing that is responsible for the student's disappearance. And I am just going to refer it to the thing. I don't want you to be looking for it in the trailer, so you'll figure it out as soon as you see it in the movie. So this thing does pop up throughout the movie, and it gets to be more and more and more so, which with each POV, each character, it kind of encounters that, and it just starts to thread everything together in such a good way. I would say things really started to unravel, and as the audience, you're really starting to find out, oh, I see where they're, I mean, yeah, I think you get a feeling before it happens, but once you get to Marcus's POV, that's when you kind of go, ah, I see where this is going, and this thing that I'm talking about really shows up and starts actually interacting with the characters. And I think from there on, from Marcus's, I would actually say it would start a little bit from Josh Brolin's character's POV. From there on, they kind of bring you back into the horror of it, and you see things unveil, and because you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, but you're left with these imageries that are a little traumatizing. You're like, what is going on? And you are on the edge of your seat wanting to find out more. I will also say that this movie has a very similar to Barbarian. There's a lot of parts that will give you a laugh. Like sometimes it's a little bit like a nervous laugh, but it does break up the tension, and I appreciate having that in there. So if you're familiar with what I'm talking about from the Barbarian, there's similar things like that in this movie. Not exactly the same, but like kind of like a similar style. And to sort of wrap up this review, I really liked it throughout. I felt like I was invested in these characters, invested in wanting to know exactly what caused these children to run out of their doors at exactly 2:17 a.m. And essentially hiding behind my fingers watching the later part of the movie. I will say I craved a little bit more explanation for an ending. And I think that's a personal thing really, is not to exactly put a bow on it, but I just wanted a little bit more clarification. But I also do want to say, I think it's good to leave certain things in mystery, because it's open for conversation, for discussion, amongst friends, right? Once you've seen the movie. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and give you my rating for Weapons. The movie couple rating system is listed for you in the video description below. As you can tell, thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a lot of, I've been thinking about this movie a lot since I've watched it, and it's kind of a little scared to look at certain parts of my house because I'm thinking, oh, am I going to see this thing pop up, the jump scare? It'll stay with you. Just like Barbarian. I think the Barbarian stayed with me a little bit more, but this one will have a similar impact on you, and I think horror movies are best experienced in theaters. I'm going to go ahead and give Weapons a check it out. And there you have it. That is my thoughts on the movie. Let me know once you've seen it in the comment section below your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.